Hello and welcome to Deep Blue Sea, the podcast. I'm your host, Jake Lewis. On this show, we have been through the entire Deep Blue Sea trilogy, scene by scene. Now looking at some Deep Blue Sea adjacent films. That's films directed by Rennie Harlan, featuring sharks or aquatic action. And this is very much an aquatic, deep film. As today we're talking about, it's our, I think, second Disney animated film. Atlantis, The Lost Empire. What is it? Atlantis, The Lost Empire? It's made in 2001, Disney animated film, starring the voice cast of Michael J. Fox, James Garner, Cree Summer, Don Novello, Phil Morris, Claudia Christian, Jacqueline Obradors, John Mahoney, David Ogden Stiers, Jim Varney, Leonard Nimoy, a bunch of people. Loads, a very eclectic cast in this film. And it sees Michael J. Fox's character, Milo Thatch, who is on an expedition to find Atlantis, and he is brought on board a big crew, and they have a big ship, and they go and they find Atlantis, and hilarity ensues. So I need clearly, I'm not very familiar with this film. This is the first time I've watched it, so I need somebody who is more familiar, who has seen every Disney film, has ranked them on a Facebook page. We'll talk about that soon. So we have a first-time guest. Joining us for the first time is Andy Goulding. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks ever so much for having me. I'm honoured to be invited on the podcast. I've been listening to some of your recent episodes, and the calibre of guests is extremely high. So I'm hoping I can live up to that. I especially enjoyed Emily Slade recently talking about Shark Tale. I thought she was fantastic, and yes, that is quite a task talking about Shark Tale.
Emily is a great guest who, took that hit of I wanted to cover Shark Tale. No one else wants to talk about Shark Tale, and she was like, "I guess I'll talk about Shark Tale then, but I won't be happy about it." And yeah, always.
Well, she seemed pretty happy about it.
So she's only happy to talk about it, but she's never happy to watch it. I think it's not one of her favourites. But yes, I love having Emily on, and I've been meaning to have you on for a while. But what was putting me off having you on was that you hadn't seen Deep Blue Sea.
No.
But then I found out that if I book you as a guest, you'll go out and watch it. So I didn't know that before. So before we get into Atlantis, listeners, we will get into Atlantis, but we have to know, what did you think about Deep Blue Sea?
Well, I've been meaning to watch Deep Blue Sea for a long time. It's one of those films that I keep hearing people talk about all the time now. It seems to be one of those films that, a bit like Atlantis, is recently its stock has gone up a bit in people's opinion. So I sat down, really excited to finally get around to watching it. I'll be completely honest, I was really worried for the first about half an hour because I really wasn't getting into it for that first half an hour, and I was thinking, I'm going to have to go on Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, and immediately alienate the listenership before I even get to talking about the film that I'm on to talk about.
You wouldn't be the first.
I'm going to have to admit that this isn't going well. But I knew they were working up to something, so I thought, staying there, it's gonna get better. And when things kicked off after about half an hour, things turned around very quickly for me, and it started to immediately fulfil the expectations I had of having a fun evening. And by the time a shark tried to bake LL Cool J, I was fully on board with this.
Great.
This is nothing against LL Cool J, because I think he's probably my favourite thing in the film. But yeah, once that action is underway, I mean, even the ludicrous dialogue, which I was finding tough in the first half hour, that suddenly becomes an asset. That works really well. Up to and including the closing song about LL Cool J's shark fin hat. So I think if I go back to it, that 30-minute setup might be more palatable next time round, because I'll know a bit more about what's coming. But yeah, I'd fully intend to go back and watch it again. So obviously, it did it for me in the end.
I'm very happy to hear that. Have you seen the music video that accompanies the LL Cool J song?
No. Do you know what? I'm amazed that I didn't immediately go and watch that. That should have been my priority.
There's a
Does
lot
he wear a shark fin hat?
Oh, no. He turns into a shark. It's wonderful. We did a whole episode on it.
One thing I was going to ask actually before we move on from Deep Blue Sea is I assume with how much you've talked about DBC, have you covered why on earth Ronnie Cox is in this film and says absolutely nothing?
We've tried. It's the stuff of myth. We haven't found like a satisfying answer as to why he's in it. It's quite frustrating. Um, he is there. No one seems to know why. He never worked with Rennie Harlin before or since. Uh, he's not really worked with many people that are in the film. He's just kind of there. It's
Yeah,
one of
I
those
mean, he
things
was for a while. He was my favourite character in it because he wasn't saying anything. but but
yeah.
then as it went on, like I say, that dialogue, there was some line to the effect of who ordered the fish or something.
Yeah, Scoggins has a couple of lines like that.
Yeah, and when
Where,
by
yeah,
the time that came out, I was fully on board with that kind of dialogue. If that had happened in the first half hour, uh, I might have been a bit more wary. But by that time, I was having such a good time. They could have been saying anything.
and like I feel like Scoggins is a character that you're not supposed to like him.
No,
You're supposed to be like, I'm waiting for this guy to get eaten. Like Michael Rappaport doesn't tend to play the kind of characters people like rooting for. So he's fodder. He's very much fodder. And yes, he goes the way of the chums. So yeah, great. I'm glad that you liked it. Yeah, we wouldn't have been the first guest who didn't like it. I mean, when we were going through chapter by chapter, when we got to the Samuel Jackson death scene, the guest film for that one, it turned out when he had seen DBC with his family, his stepdad was like, "We're going to go see the Sam Jackson film." When Sam Jackson died, they all got up and left because they were there to see a Sam Jackson film, and he wasn't in the film anymore, so they went and saw something else. They went back into the Phantom Menace or something.
there is like that. There's that group of people, isn't there, who they go around and they watch films. I can't remember what they call themselves. They watch films, and when the title of the film is mentioned in it, they stand up and applaud, and they leave the film.
Oh wow, okay.
And they go around and do that. So maybe was that their thing? Was that when Samuel Jackson dies, they leave the film?
Yeah, they've never seen the end of Jurassic Park or Goodfellas or quite a few other films. Yeah, I mean, with the title drop, you get quite a way into Deep Blue Sea. It's not until that last act, like, oh, now we know what the shark wants. Deep Blue Sea. See, you miss the end explosion, but you see most of it. You get the gist.
I was quite surprised at how long Samuel Jackson lasted. Actually, I was under the impression that he was killed off almost immediately. So I was quite glad that he stuck around for about an hour.
Yeah, he's arguably the main character up until that point. He's like the
Yeah,
audience cipher. Yeah, good. I'm so happy that you liked it because I feel like there's some people who hadn't seen it before who've come on here who I feel like I've made them watch Deep Blue Sea and they didn't. It's not their kind of film. I wouldn't have pegged you as being like a creature feature junkie. Like we've podcasted before, but you're not someone I know terribly well. Like I know
yeah.
you're a high caliber film fan, I would say. um, is that correct?
I guess so, but I think this is the sort of film. If I'd gone to see it when it came out, I wouldn't have had any time for it. But then in those days, I wouldn't have had time for Jurassic Park, which is just ludicrous. I used to be very kind of, oh yeah, I don't really like anything with like a bit of action in it. I wasn't interested in, but my horizons broadened as I got older, and sometimes you just want something. Like I can't remember what the other film was, but there was one evening when I'd been to the library and I'd rented two films, and one of them was some kind of really critically acclaimed thing that I really had wanted to see for a long, long time, and the other one was White House Down, and it was like it'd been a hard week, and I got so much more out of White House Down that evening. That stuck with me as one of my favourite kind of just easy to watch action films. And I think Deep Blue Sea completely had the same effect on me. I definitely intend to watch it again. So yeah, I'm really pleased I finally made it onto the podcast because it gave me that push to watch it.
Well, we'll have you back on. You have to watch Deep Blue Sea 2 before the next time.
Yeah, okay, we'll make a deal now. I will do that if you have me back on.
It's the same film, but a much smaller budget. But there's a lot of fun to be had with Deep Blue Sea 2. It's a cheaper film. Anyway, let's move on to the main topic at hand, Atlantis: The Lost Empire. So this was a film that I saw for the first time for this. It's a film that you recently did. You're following you on Facebook is a full-time job sometimes because you post a lot. I'm very envious of your sort of stay-at-home dad lifestyle because you seem to watch a lot more films than I get the chance to. And you post about them on Facebook, and you did a full Disney ranking going through them all. And this is a film that I'd never heard of before you went through it. This is kind of in that period of Disney films between Dinosaur and The Princess and the Frog that I didn't see any of. And other than this one, I still haven't seen like Fantasia 2000 through to Bolt. I've not seen any of them apart from Atlantis. So
you've not seen Bolt?
I've not seen Bolt. I've not seen.
I love Bolt.
Emperor's New Groove. I've not seen Lilo and Stitch.
Goodness me!
I haven't seen any. Like Meet the Robinsons. I hear is great. It's got a dinosaur in it. I love dinosaurs, but I haven't seen it. And this is just one of those films that it's in that no man's land of they're out. They're on Disney Plus. I have Disney Plus. I could be watching them all right now, but I'm not. So it's just I'm thrilled when I saw that you had posted about it and that you liked it, and I thought, great, we'll talk about it. I'll watch it. So was this a film that you saw when it first came out, 2001, or was it relatively new to you?
No, I saw it a lot later. It was one of those films. I'd heard such bad things about it, and I try not to let that bother me nowadays. But there's still just that ingrained thing where if you hear enough people say a film is terrible, that you just put it off. So I sat down with very low expectations of it, and I can remember that first time I watched it, I kept checking back online because I was thinking, I'm loving this, and I can't believe that its reputation is this bad. I mean, it ended up as in my ranking of all. Well, it was 61 Disney films because I did the ranking before Wish came out, which, in all honesty, was lucky for Wish. But this ended up at number 8 in my ranking. So this is the top 10 film. It was one above The Little Mermaid and one below Robin Hood. When I finally got around to it, I couldn't believe that it was so widely disliked. And then I think I posted something about it when I first watched it, and then a few of my friends agreed and said, "Oh yeah, we love this." And then gradually over the years since then, I've seen more and more people start to say it's great. Like certain places, like if you go on Letterboxd, I think it's quite highly rated, and more people seem to be drawn to it now.
I mean, it's still one I've not heard a lot of people discussing it outside of you and a couple of podcasts, but it's not. It's still not in like massively in the public eye, I think, but it's getting there. I hope it
it's
does.
not. The average person wouldn't have seen it. I don't think if you mention it. But then you get that thing with the Disney eras, like you get the people who grew up with it, so you get a certain amount of time away from them, and then suddenly there's this group who absolutely love it, and so Atlantis has got to that point now where it's got that real solid group of people who saw it at the cinema at the time. But I think it's done. You don't have to have seen it at the time at all. I think it stands up as. I mean, I love adventure films. That's something that I've always loved, and this has that real kind of rip-roaring adventure, plenty of humour to it, and just like that forward drive, loads of characters. So I just love it. I watch it all the time. I've watched it 4 or 5 times. I think this was probably my 6th time I watched it for this podcast. And I must admit, I still haven't fully got a handle on the plot, but
we'll get there. So it gets a little unwieldy. So I have to get out of the way first. Is your son named after the main character of this?
He's not. No, this is an odd detail. My son is actually named after the lead character in my favourite childhood book, which is called The Phantom Tollbooth. And The Phantom Tollbooth was made into a film in the 70s by Chuck Jones. And later this week, I am going on the Forgotten Film podcast to talk about that. So completely coincidentally, this week I've been asked to go on 2 podcasts to talk about 2 different animated films where the protagonist is called Milo, but only one of them is what my son is named after.
Excellent. Well, happy to take second place in that. That's fine. But yes, big fans of Todd. Todd's been on the show numerous times, so
Yeah, he's great.
You're in good company there. Great. Yeah, okay. So I please know I really liked Atlantis as well.
Oh, great.
It was better than I thought it was going to be because I just had heard like, oh, this is that period of Disney makes rubbish films. Then like they had made great films, and then there's just these also rans because like Treasure Planet was a bit of a bomb when that came out. I think like Brother Bear, Home and Range, Chicken Little, they didn't exactly get good reviews, and I'd always just kind of lumped Atlantis in with those lesser films, and that was my mistake, and I regret that, and I'm thrilled that I've seen it now.
Yeah, Treasure Planet is one that I've tried to like. Yeah, I've gone back to that a few times, but it's a lot more cluttered, and there's too many ideas and not enough focus in it. But that seems to be another one that has its real sort of army of defenders. But it seemed it followed up Atlantis, and I think a lot of people confuse the two because they're right next to each other, and they're from this time when Disney were experimenting and doing a more sort of straight action adventure approach without the music and things like that. And I think these 2 films kind of killed it until Strange World, which again killed it.
Yes. I was going to say, I hope you're not going to say that reinvigorated it because it did
I'm not a fan of Strange World. It didn't work for me. But it was an actual like they made a concerted effort to make something different. The crew apparently for this film wore T-shirts that said Atlantis, fewer songs, more explosions on them.
Yes. Which I mean, I've maybe missed the songs a little bit. I don't mind the Disney musicals. I felt there were a couple of moments.
Oh, I love them. I love all the Disney musicals. No, I think it's fantastic. I don't think they would have worked in this.
I mean, there are a couple of moments when you have like Milo and Kido when they go for that swim under the water to find the map and they're up in the air bubble. I feel like that felt like a musical moment to me of them just like exploring the sun, but then it'd be singing underwater and neither of them are mermaids, so I guess that wouldn't have quite worked. But that felt like a musical moment, and there were a few other little bits. There were a few other like the montage of once they're in the Atlantis area and they're like just the montage of everyone drives, that kind of bit where everyone's got to pull together and scramble. That felt like it could have been a real rousing team song in there.
Yeah, I suppose they could have put them in. I think it's there's just so much to pack in. I mean, there's in that crew like Milo and that group who go on the expedition. There's 9 characters there.
Yes. So. Maybe too many, but I liked them all. I think Is there a standout crew member for you? Is there a favourite amongst them?
I do really like Mole because I think
hell yes.
I think they don't hold back with him. Clearly, his backstory is too disturbing for them to actually tell. And when he meets Kida for the first time, he immediately sexually harasses her. So there's just this real sort of scrungy element to him, which I really like.
Yeah, because this came out the same year as Moulin Rouge, which has the Voulez-Vous que je avec moi song, and that's what he whispers to her. Presumably, we hear the Voulez-Vous. But I was hoping, I was disappointed we didn't get to hear his backstory because we hear that everyone's backstories of the whole like campfire scene, and they say about Mel, don't ask him about his backstory. You don't want to know his back. You shouldn't have told me. And I wish I didn't know. And we're gonna find out later, and it's gonna be salacious, and we never do. So it's just in my mind, like, what is this guy? Because he's the oddest character of the bunch, definitely. Where he's the digger. His name is Mole Moliere. He's got like buck teeth and his eyes that extend out like Inspector Gadget. And if you analyze the dirt under your fingernails, he can give you a life story. But it's clear he's just like a dirt fetishist of some kind. Like, later in the film, he's wearing a suit. He's really uncomfortable and has to strip it off and burrow into an urn just to feel okay. So he's the one I think they put the most time to like develop as an oddball.
Yeah,
Whereas some of the others maybe didn't get. I wanted to like Audrey, the engineer. I wanted
yeah,
a bit more for her. I feel like she didn't get as much of a developed character as some of the others.
yeah. I do like Audrey, but that she is a bit sort of a the classic kind of tomboy image thing that they used to do all the time in those days.
Yeah, I feel like she was a Joss Whedon edition because he worked on
Yeah,
the script, and she's basically the same character as Kaylee from Firefly.
yeah. No,
As
I thought exactly the same thing. She is, yeah. She maybe a little less sweet, but
Sure.
and she doesn't have to have boilers mansplained to her by the protagonist, but
Yes. I mean that is at least a fun scene that Milo's stuck in his office is in the like the steam pipe room,
yeah,
boiler room of the museum. So he's picked up a few things here and there. So that's
yeah.
fun.
No, I really like it.
Uh,
It's warranted. She's underestimating him, so
yeah,
he's showing what he can do, isn't he?
yeah, and that allows her to invite him into the crew, and they're all friends, and kind of goes from there.
I always think the other crew member I was think about is Doctor Sweet. I
Hmm.
think if Atlantis had come out just a few years down the line, he would definitely have been voiced by Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Or if they did a live action, it would probably be Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah,
Been just like uh, it seems to have been based on him almost as a character. Yeah, he's a nice guy. I liked him as well. He just this gentle giant like behemoth who's the
yeah.
medic. He's fun, and I did like the explosive guy Vinny as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Who
Vinny's good. Yeah, yeah.
they say he's
I like them
Italian.
all. I like them all. They're what's the old lady's name?
Mrs. Packard. Packard.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
see, when I first saw, I just assumed that she was voiced by Tress MacNeille because she always voices the crotchety old lady in that way. But yeah, even she gets a couple of little lines here and there. But I feel that they've done a really good job of making them all memorable enough. They're maybe not fully fleshed out, but I know who they all are by the end of the film.
Yeah, yeah, and they all have kind of a distinct look. It's that thing where if you just see their silhouette, you want to be able to recognize who they are. So that the Disney is very good at doing that, which is making
Yeah.
all these characters look very different. And you got Jim Varney as the cook. I love Jim Varney. Well, I love Slinky Dog. I should clarify. That's the only Jim Varney thing
of
I've
course,
seen.
yeah.
But my regular co-host Mark, he is a big fan of Jim Varney from the Ernest films. He loves all the Ernest films, which I'm guessing isn't scheduled to be any kind of ranking you do anytime soon.
Well,
The Ernest franchise.
I've never ever seen an Ernest film, so
Me
maybe
neither.
I should take that leap and do the Ernest ranking next.
I mean, good luck to you. I haven't seen any either, but Mark absolutely loves Ernest Scared Stupid. It's one of his favourite films of all time. Great. I think there's a couple of villains in the team who are immediately clear that they are villains. Um,
Well,
I,
Helga looks like she stepped out of a Ralph Bakshi film.
well, yeah, they're doing a very femme fatale film noir entrance to her, which
Yeah,
I feel like just doesn't go anywhere.
they get the sort of saxophone
Yeah.
sound, like the sexy saxophone, don't they? And she talks in that very breathy kind of. You don't see the breathy sex pot much in animated films
No,
these days.
especially like from Disney,
Yeah.
where like one of her like shoulder straps is always just off of her shoulder in every scene. Um,
Actually, there's one. Have you ever seen the Black Cauldron?
no, I haven't.
That's known for being a bit more adult. Generally, like just because it's scary, but I do remember there's a sort of buxom serving wench in that looks very much like it was Ralph Bakshi influenced. And there's a quite a long sort of comedic set piece where again, a very buxom witch turns the unwilling object of her affection into a frog, and then he gets stuck in her cleavage.
Oh, of course.
And it needs to be seen to be believed, really. It was very unexpected when I watched it.
I guess, I mean, that happens in Brave, Pixar's Brave, where there's the the matron maid character who tries to hide a key in her cleavage, and one of the little boys who's been turned into a bear dives in there. I think it's
it's been a long time. I haven't seen Brave since it came out, actually.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw it. So that's why I haven't been back. I am going to do the Pixar rating eventually. So
I look forward to that one. I've seen all of those.
Yeah,
multiple times. Good. What was her name? Yeah, Helga is the femme fatale for one scene, and after that it's just kind of second in command.
Yeah.
Bad guy, pretend to be good guy, and then Rourke, voiced by James Garner,
yeah,
is very clearly the bad guy from the off. When they're talking about the mission, he's like, oh, this will be very enriching. I was like, well, okay, that's a interesting choice of word you used there. You're clearly going to try and steal everything.
He is quite good though. I do like him. I do like him in this role. He's
James. I mean, I love James Garner. He's Ever since The Great Escape, I'll watch him in anything or listen.
Which I mean that's in your letterbox top 4, isn't it?
It is indeed one of my favourite 4 films of all time. Of course, that's what the letterbox 4 is for. Yes,
again, it's a film I'll watch any time. The Great Escape, you can just stick it on or come in at any point in it. And
yeah, a quick shout out to Movie Rob, who's done the Great Escape Minute. Did that film minute by minute.
And also there's a bit of a connection there as well, isn't there? There's a character who's the mole in Great Escape.
Yes, there is. Ives. Yes. Yeah. We always get mixed up with Ives from Porridge. Just hear Mackay go, horrible Ives. Anyway.
You charmless nerk.
I love having English people on the show. Americans have no idea what we're talking about. Good. We haven't even really mentioned the Atlanteans, which the impetus for the reason they go down there.
They are quite a bit more bland than the rest of the cast, I suppose.
Yes, we only really meet 2 of them. It's Kida, who we see as a child and then grown up, and the king. The king is voiced by Leonard Nimoy, so we have to give some credit there.
Yeah.
He does a great job.
He has the gravitas for that role, doesn't he?
He's not in it for very long, but when he is, he has a gravitas. And Kida is voiced by Cree Summer. She does a good job.
Yeah,
no one's doing bad here, but she just doesn't have a lot to work with. She's just kind of this, not like a dream character, but she's just, it's the Neytiri role. It's the Avatar thing with this guy comes in and is better at her life than she is.
Yeah.
She
gets they have that nice little sort of Abbott and Costello-esque routine about Dr. Sweet and you're Dr. Sweet and that's I quite like that.
Your mechanic is not sweet. That goes on through multiple scenes.
It does, yeah.
This one long conversation
with saying and mole is your pet, which Miley just concedes.
Yeah. I mean, how else would you describe him? Is he even human? I don't know.
I don't know. I can think of some ways to describe it. A burrowing sex pest, I suppose. Is
one area that, in terms of characters, one area I found the film, I wasn't missing it, but I was surprised it wasn't there. There was no animal sidekick. There was no character that would become the obvious toy that everyone would buy.
I guess that's what Mole fulfills in a sort of slightly more grotesque way, isn't it? But I think they were going for a more kind of, I could say more kind of realistic. I mean, it's hard to say that in a film where the bad guy turns into a blue crystal man and gets shattered to death at the end.
Wasn't expecting that to happen.
They were going for a more kind of I was going to say grounded. That is not the word to use there, but they were moving away from that kind of anthropomorphic animal thing. It's a similar way they tried to do with Pocahontas, I guess, although they had the animal sidekicks, so they just kept them mute.
Yes, yeah. Pocahontas is one of my wife's favourite Disney films, which mainly because of the raccoon, like and the dog and all the animal characters. Like,
She wouldn't be happy with where I ranked that. I can't remember where it
I
was exactly, but it was quite low.
I didn't tell her. She'll never know. She doesn't listen to this show. Uh, but I mean, they did make toys for Atlantis. There are more action figures than like cuddly toys, and it was a Happy Meal range, of course.
They were giving it a big push. It was supposed to be a big thing. There was going to be a TV series, which is now the straight to video follow up. Just 3 episodes of that stitched together which I did watch a long time ago.
I was going to say, have you seen it?
I have, yeah. I think I did quite enjoy it, but in that kind of it's not something I would advise you to go out and seek out. And as I say, it might be the Deep Blue Sea 2 of Atlantis.
I was going to say we've worked out what film we're coming back for. Milo's return will be Andy's return.
There was a whole planned like underwater attraction for Disney World as well, which was just scratched once it didn't do as well as they'd planned. I mean, it did because this Atlantis came out in the year when they first started doing the Best Animated Feature Oscar category, and it didn't get nominated. It lost out to Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius in the nominees, which I've got nothing against Jimmy Neutron, but I think it should have been up there.
It doesn't feel right. I've never seen Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. Obviously, you used to watch the TV show, I think, but
yeah. Well, the film is just like a long version of the TV show, really.
But like, the animated Oscar has a history of being wrong.
Yeah,
in many areas. The Lego Movie springs to mind. And
of course, yeah, it didn't even get nominated, did it?
The Lego Batman movie.
The best animations of the year never do get nominated in it, and they rarely win either.
Oh, I'm always irked by Back to Pixar Monsters University being snubbed. Which
I've only seen that once as well. I don't remember being wild about it, but
I didn't expect it to win, but I feel like it should have been nominated over The Croods, I think.
It was better than The Croods, I seem to remember, yeah.
Yes, there we are. Great. So I'm guessing you didn't own any of the toys. You didn't seek out any of the.
No, because I didn't see it at the time, and also I never eat at McDonald's, so.
Fair enough,
any Happy Meal toys I've got are just charity shop purchases.
Yes,
I think I've got a Princess Jasmine somewhere, actually.
Excellent. Yeah, one of the less deep or blue adjacent Disney films is Aladdin. Very, very dry film. Good. So when I initially sat down to watch this, it was with my wife, and we got about a minute in, and she was like, "Nope, not watching this." Because this film starts not in the kind of traditional Disney style. This is when CGI was kind of creeping more and more into the look of it, and it starts out with kind of the Atlanteans under attack. Well, not really under attack. There's a big wave coming from them. It's not being attacked. Under threat, and they're flying on their fish-shaped craft, which I was confused as to why they were all fish-shaped before Atlantis sinks into the water. I mean, it's an island; they probably fish, but it feels like a post-submersion design choice rather than a pre. But there we are. So we didn't make it to actually meeting any named characters before my wife's like, no, thank you. So I ended up watching it on my own at a later date, which is a shame because it's not CGI for very long.
Still, clearly a woman who knows what she wants. Like.
Well, I thought it was like I need to watch it's a Disney film. Did you ever watch Atlantis? No, so new Disney film we're watching tonight, and it wasn't what she wanted, which is a shame. So I think she would have liked it had she given it more. Once we meet Milo, it's more traditional style.
Yeah, immediately when you get into that first scene with Milo, it has that real sort of Disney charm about it. It's really nicely animated. It's got the humour. I always love that bit where he leans over the blackboard to answer the phone and sort of rides down it. I can remember watching it the first time, and that was the moment where I was like, yeah, right, I'm on board with this. This is like the classic Disney style. I think it was the fact that it was traditionally animated was one of the things that cost it the Oscar nomination, because there was a big kind of it was when there was all the stuff about Shrek, and that was the computer animated films were the big deal. So I think that cost it a lot of critical acclaim at the time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Whereas today, people are like, "Oh, you did have a hand drawn, instant nomination." Yeah, how things change. Yeah, I liked Milo's got a great character. I mean, he's a pretty traditional lead of a children's film, I guess, where he's awkward. He's like a bit of a boffin, but he's not really getting his due. And he's got the sad story. His parents have passed. He's got his granddad's legacy. No one cares what he does at work. He's just like a gangly, very practical, very physical comedy, kind of clumsy guy.
Yeah, so
and
Michael J. Fox is the perfect choice.
Absolutely. I mean, Michael J. Fox has a very distinctive voice, but I didn't immediately click who it was. I was like, this fits very well for the character of Milo. I initially thought, is that Breckin Meyer? That's because I recently watched Rat Race for another podcast. So I'm just in some kind of Breckin Meyer rut. But no. But it is clearly Michael J. Fox. I don't know what was wrong with me. And that voice fits the character very well. I'm very happy. He does a great job. I liked his hair. His hair is all over the place when he's swimming. His hair goes backwards, and he rarely looks heroic.
Yeah, yeah. They don't make any concession to that type. There's no point where he rips his shirt off and he's like got a six pack or anything.
No, they make a point of saying, "Oh, you must be a scholar because you have such a massive forehead and no physical strength." So, what other use is there for you? Good. So yes, I liked him and everything he did. Yeah, and another character that I wanted to spend more time with was Whitmore, Preston B. Whitmore, the John Mahoney character, who was the kind of the rich guy who used to know Milo's grandfather and is funding the whole expedition. And when we first meet him, he's doing this extreme yoga, wearing not very much, and then he gets dressed, and his toes are all clicking in different directions, and it's disgusting. And we just kind of get him for one scene. Yeah, and we never see him again. It's like
he pops up at the end again, doesn't he? But
yes.
I remember being disappointed that he wasn't along for the ride. But then there's, I don't know, is he a bit too similar to some of the other characters? Him and Cookie on the same crew might have been a bit.
That's
much.
True.
I mean, it's funny. I wasn't. I really like him as a character, but I really wasn't sure what to say about him. I'm just looking at my notes here, and that for his one scene, the only two words I've written down are quirky fruitcake.
Sure, that fits.
I mean, either I was hungry for some kind of unusual snack at that time, or that is just the only thing I got from him. But then I suppose that's one of the great things about Atlantis. You can sort of boil the characters down to these really brief descriptions, and that gives you the essence of them. Some might say that's not a plus, but quirky fruitcake, burrowing sex offender, all the breathy sex pot we've said, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
obvious villain.
Obvious villain, yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I had a point. I can't remember what it was. With quirky fruitcake threw me off. So kind of spoilers for the end when we find out the bad guy's the bad guy, but we know that the whole way through. It has the whole mission is like they're all bad guys initially. So extrapolating back, is Whitmore the villain behind it all?
Yeah, that is something I never quite put together. Or is he just oblivious to the fact that he's hired a load of mercenaries?
It's unclear, and the mercenaries, most of them are swayed to be on the good side by the end, and the ones who don't are dead.
Yeah,
this is a Disney film where a lot of people die. a lot of mostly unnamed characters are killed. Most of them killed by our main characters. Who used
We
to be on
did
the
get
same side as them.
one interesting thing about Death that I did write down was that Helga joins the long list of Disney villains who fall to their death.
Yes, yeah, Gaston is in
Yeah,
there.
Gaston. I've written a few down. Actually. Gaston, Ratigan, Wicked Queen from Snow White, McLeach from Rescuers Down Under, Frollo, Mother Gothel, Scroop from Treasure Planet, and one that everyone always misses, which I always point out, the cat from Cinderella. The cat falls to its death. We'd actually see it. We see it go out the window. We see it fall most of the way, and then they pull back. They don't want to show it. A cat splattered. There's some borderline ones as well. There's the bear from The Fox and the Hound, which I would contest because it's not really a villain. It's just being a bear.
Yeah.
Clayton from Tarzan.
I was going to say Clayton. Yeah.
Yeah. His neck gets snapped, doesn't he? So some people include Scar, but I mean Scar survives, but he's then killed by the hyenas. So I don't. Really
it's a relatively short fall for Scar, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's off a cliff. He's going to push into. Yeah, the hyenas. I
mean, my controversial opinion is that Mufasa belongs in there more than Scar, because, well, you might say he's not a villain. He does preside over a sickening example of a monarchy in which the hyenas are just a startlingly oppressed underclass. They're ghettoized in the shadowy elephant graveyard for no reason whatsoever.
And it's not a.
I've read The Circle of Life. There's nothing in there that justifies the treatment of those hyenas.
And I would say it's not a great monarch who eats their subjects. It's not an ideal.
Yeah, well, he's come up with that thing about our bodies become the grass, which is
sure. Yeah, okay, that seems fair in the grand scheme of things.
I mean, the grass doesn't have nerve endings when they're eating it. So.
Yes. Mufasa, not even secret villain. But then and Simba becomes the new Mufasa. It's the circle of life. Yes. Where were we?
I don't know. I've taken us off on a massive tangent there. I'm sorry about that.
No, absolutely fine. Villains that fall to their deaths, such as Helga. Okay, that's what we got to that one. Good. She falls to her death, but has her last kind of. It's not even a heroic act. It's more of a spiteful, vengeful act of taking Rourke down with with the flare gun. So good for her. And he just throws her. He throws her out of the. How much does she weigh? How much? He's trying to get rid of ballast, and he throws his relatively thin assistant out. And he must be at least like triple her weight. Obviously, he's not going to throw himself out. But,
no, obviously not. No.
Yeah. Anyway, I did enjoy the giant robot lobster. As a fun little surprise. When he's given the presentation, like there's this Leviathan, like protecting Atlantis. Like, there's going to be a monster. Wasn't expecting a big robot. Loved that.
I always forget that that's there somehow. I don't know if it that it doesn't quite fit somehow, but it's welcome. But I don't know. I always erase that from my mind somehow after every watch.
At least the line "Jiminy Christmas, it's a machine," which is fun.
Oh God, I was criticising the Deep Blue Sea dialogue at the beginning of this, but
I mean,
that sounds like a straight out of Deep Blue Sea if it was just Jiminy Christmas is a shark.
Yeah, I mean, I love that line. If we talk about awkward dialogue, when Rourke later is like, "I love it when I win," that felt like a real. Who are you? Why are you saying this? Who to? Are you Robert Duvall? I don't think so. This feels a weird line to say here, but there we are. He does.
There was one line that stood out to me this time actually, which is when the king says to Kida when they first get there, he says something about there was a time when you would have killed them on sight, which I think has Kida just been murdering people who turn up at Atlantis.
Well, I mean, how many people have made it? Because
I suppose they haven't made it. So I suppose but so what is he basing that on? Just what she would what you assume she would have done.
Maybe that's what he always wanted from her. Tried to train her to be
Yeah,
that kind of xenophobic, kill any newcomers,
yeah,
and he's trying to impose that upon her. Because they say like no outsiders may see Atlantis and live. Yet they're very easily swayed to like, let us stay the night, then we'll go tomorrow, and they're like, okay, sure. So it's not a hard and fast rule.
yeah.
Yeah. So when the Leviathan takes out the ship, we're going all over the place. It's fine. And we have all of the people. There's like 200 people on board. They say. I love the design of the ship. It's just a big fish with a big glowing eye at the front. That's cool. I like ship designs. They get some very like Titanic-esque imagery of like Audrey shutting some bulkhead doors and trapping people inside who drown. They would never see him again, and then the Leviathan takes out a bunch of ships. There's so many people die.
Yeah, I had
many.
forgotten that. This time round, I'd forgotten that, and then I did sit there and I almost rewound to just check that had happened, because I mean, it's not like they're given. It's not like they're given real characters themselves or anything, but yeah, I did think how did I not remember that hundreds of people die relatively near the beginning of this film, and we just have to sort of shrug that off.
Yeah, there's a kind of brief memorial, like with the survivors. They just have a little moment.
Yeah, but it's not much. I suppose it's not like they can do anything opulent, but it's
sure.
It's like something you'd do, like if your hamster drowned.
Yeah, because I'm just kind of scanning through other animated Disney films, and I don't think of any that have such a body count. Obviously, there are films where they die, but I guess because they're all like unnamed characters. We get like villains, we get parents tend to be killed off in these kinds of films.
Yeah,
I mean it's rare to have swathes of extras just wiped out.
It's implied in the Lion King, because like the circle of life just means that they're all fair game. All those wildebeest that trample Mufasa, they're all going to be eaten, aren't they?
They're getting vengeance upon him for the generations that he's eaten of them in the past.
I always wonder at the end of the Lion King, if because Simba's standing on Pride Rock, and Timon and Pumbaa are up there with him, and I think, do they get some kind of special protection? Because otherwise they're going to be picked off at Simba and Nala's first cocktail party, aren't they?
So I think so. They have like diplomatic immunity or something at this point.
Yeah, but no, don't
touch his friends.
The circle of life. It's obviously I have a big problem with the circle of life. I keep dragging it back to the Lion King. Let's go back to Atlantis.
I mean, Lion King is maybe the first film I saw in cinema, so I'm always happy to talk about it. I love
well, that was my number 6, so that is higher than Atlantis on my list.
Okay, good. It would be on mine as well. I think. What was your number 1? I can't remember.
Dumbo.
Okay.
Dumbo. I'm a big fan of Dumbo because it's about. I love animation as a medium, and Dumbo is very much like here's lots of different sort of types of animation across lots of little ideas. So I've always loved Dumbo.
Beauty and the Beast, I think, is my favourite.
Beauty and the Beast is cracking. I think I had that. It was just outside my top 10, I think, in the end. Beauty and the Beast, but when this rewatch, I liked it far more than I remembered liking it.
Any scene with Gaston in it is like my favourite scene of all time.
Yeah, well, the Gaston song is definitely, if I was going to do my top 10 Disney moments, that might make it in, just for some of those brilliant rhymes.
How do you rate the quote unquote live action Disney remakes that they've been doing recently?
Oh God,
sorry to bring the tone down.
I really don't like them. Which one? I'm trying to remember which ones I've seen. I saw Beauty and the Beast, which just was pointless to me. Yes. It was like just the same thing, but with all the fun sucked out. And that's how I kind of see most of them. The stuff like the Jungle Book one was all right because it was a bit different from the. But all I ever do if I watch one of those is think I wish I was watching the animated one.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Although I did enjoy The Little Mermaid, less so than the animated original,
Yeah,
but I liked it more than I thought I was going to.
yes. I was tempted to watch it just because how much it annoyed racists. Um,
Yes, always worth doing. That's a
yeah,
reason to watch anything. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, she is great in. I can't remember her name. Halle Bailey. She's very good in the role. Like Melissa McCarthy may be slightly miscast as
yeah,
Ursula, and Javier Bardem was not woken up for his scenes. He is there in spirit, in presence only. But other than that, it's I enjoyed it. And if you want to hear Aquafina rapping as Scuttle, you can't go wrong. They're watching that. She has a song that is very divisive that I really liked.
that is tempting. I do really like her.
She sings the Scuttlebutt, and it's great. I loved it. She's a duet with Daveed Diggs. Anyway, worth your time, but they're too long. They had like 45 minutes of length and no time in terms of plot or reason for TV.
Yeah, it seems like there's a kind of there's a length that they have to reach with films now, whether they've got the material or not. And so it was really nice sitting down to watch Atlantis and going, how long is this? Oh, it's like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably they this is one where they could have used a bit more time, but I'm glad they didn't. They didn't. I think if they tried to belabor the plot details too much, I would have got bored. I'm glad we zipped through it. The plot is very secondary to the characters there, I think, for me.
Yeah. Can you see them doing a live action remake of Atlantis?
I mean, it would mean that we didn't have to live through a grotesque sort of CG version of any animal characters. I mean, I couldn't. Oh, yeah, I watched Tim Burton's Dumbo and I absolutely loathed it. Obviously, it being my number one Disney film, I was kind of. I tried to go in with an open mind, but I just don't like the look of those characters. Some people love the way the CG Dumbo looked, but I think it looked like Pac-Man had mated with the sea cow.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I skipped that one because it didn't get great reviews. So I thought I'm good. Yeah, Atlantis feels like one they don't need to, like it. I mean, it's all humans, so it'd be easier to do live action potentially. But I don't know if the audience is there yet. But as you say, it's getting a bit of a resurgence. So maybe if enough people are like, yeah, Atlantis, Disney might be inspired to do another one.
There are some of the smaller ones are getting live actions, aren't they? They're doing Robin Hood and the Aristocats, aren't they? Apparently.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, I'm looking at the list now. Yeah.
I don't know if there's the sort of there was this weird. I don't know if it was official. I think it was official. There was like a teaser for the Robin Hood one, and it was the worst thing I'd ever seen. It was like a very awkward fox hand pulling back a bow. I don't know if it was real, but it kind of haunts me a little bit because I love Robin Hood as well. That was my number 7.
Yes, I love that one too. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been essentially directed by Carlos Lopez Estrada, who did Blind Spotting in 2018.
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen Blind Spotting, but I've heard that it's really good.
It is. It's very good. He also directed Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh yeah, which I liked better the second time round. Actually, it wasn't massively high up my list, but I did quite enjoy it.
Okay, so we'll see how that goes. Whereas I keep forgetting they're doing Hercules, directed by Guy Ritchie. I don't know.
I didn't know that. But...
I don't know how I feel about this. We shall see, I guess. And the Aristocats is being directed by Questlove, of course.
Oh yeah, of course it was. Yeah, I knew there was a strange. It's weird. It's the way they choose the director. I feel like it keeps them from making better films that they would be doing otherwise.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll fund something down. There's always that way of looking at it. If it's big hits and stuff, maybe it'll fund better films by them down the line. I don't know.
And like the Little Mermaid remake was done by Rob Marshall, so it stopped him from making another terrible film that he could have done. So maybe they're saving us from these awful films they could be making. Rob Marshall decided his nemesis of the podcast. He doesn't know, he doesn't care, but he made the worst Pirates film. By a long way. Anyway, my own personal vendetta. So I was disappointed in dragging it back to Atlantis. I was disappointed, disheartened when the whole team turned out to be bad guys. When like they come out of Monarch's out of the water and everyone just has a gun on him, basically. I thought, well, I mean, yes, Rourke and Sinclair, but Sweet, Vinny, Mole, everyone.
They're portrayed as being a bit kind of rough around the edges, aren't they? And then they get that. You have to show them that way to then draw out the fact that they have enough heart to not go as far as Rourke would.
Yeah, but it's only when Milo like lays it into them and guilts them that you can open up a second mechanic shop, I guess, Audrey. Which I really like the animation that you could tell she's like hanging her head in shame. You can practically see the expression on her face, but it's just the back of her head. That's very well done.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that the implication is if they're a less eloquent hero, that they just would have gone through with it. But I suppose it's disappointing. But I quite like that I quite liked that twist when I saw it. I was disappointed in a way because I thought, yeah, I like these people, but it was a good little twist when I first saw it.
Yes, I was more disappointed in the characters that I'd gotten to really like. Oh, you're all secretly bad guys. I trusted you. The film worked. But yeah, so we've mentioned a little bit of the final act here and there, but let's get into it because this is maybe the weakest element of the film for me, where the lore of Atlantis goes off the rails in a way that we haven't really been set up to expect, which isn't always a bad thing. It's always good to be surprised by some elements, but there's maybe a little too much going on here of Rourke, Sinclair, Milo, and Keita go down into this tomb, like underground thing, where she gets floated up into the crystal and turned into a crystal, and Rourke's going to take her back, and it turns out that the glass that she touches, if that breaks and you stab someone with it, they turn into a crystal being that's still alive and has red veins and shattered. There's a lot going on, and none of it is explained. I don't.
No. This is absolutely the point where I think you have to just throw out the plot and just be there for the action, because this is the sort of stuff that really annoys me usually. I can't even something as small as the Force in Star Wars. I've never been into Star Wars particularly, and the Force always annoyed me. Or the Ring in Lord of the Rings. Any kind of bit of lore like that, and so all the mumbo jumbo about crystals and stuff was. I was sat there thinking, yeah, this would probably annoy me more if it was. If I didn't love the animation so much and I wasn't so on board with the characters. So yeah, if it had been a live action version, there would have been nothing to get me through, I don't think.
I enjoyed all of the fish ships again, like Milo flying a shark shaped like airship is pretty cool. I wasn't like, it's this podcast, of course we love boat shaped like sharks. That can fly. It's great. And then so like an underground dogfight between fish ships and a hot air balloon.
Yeah, you see, all that's pretty cool. It's throw everything in the pot at this point. You might as well.
And then the ships can have like lasers come out the front of them. Great. So that was all a lot of fun. But then when you get a bit more like, and okay, so Crystal Kira comes back, a volcano erupts, and there's giant robots. There's giant robots that are just going to come out and save everything. Like, how? Why? What the? Okay, sure. It looks cool, I guess. There's this big dome, and then the lava goes over the dome and solidifies, and they break out. Yeah, fine. Everyone's okay. Great. It's very Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. it's nonsense basically, but it's in keeping with there's t-shirts that said Atlantis, fewer songs, more explosions. It's just no sense. More explosions, just more explosions. That's all. Just get more.
Fewer explanations, more explosions. Just more explosions, more explosions, more explosions. Okay. I didn't hate any of it. I just got a little bit lost in terms of what was that set up earlier? And I've gone back and kind of skimmed through watching it again. I was like, no, that wasn't really established at any point. Great.
No,
okay.
like I say,
Fine.
This is my sixth time probably, and I read the Wikipedia synopsis before I came on here to try and understand the plot better. So it's not. If you're big on plot and big on the coherence, this probably isn't the film for you.
Yeah, but if you just want to enjoy the ride, then this is a pretty good time.
Yeah.
And Milo stays behind, becomes a Atlantean scholar because he's the only one who can read, which again, that's a point they kind of skip over, given that this isn't generations have passed and everyone's forgotten to pass reading down, and it's just like Keeler is hundreds of thousands of years old.
Yeah, it's a little bit, that Milo has to come in and essentially teach them their own culture. It's a little bit, I suppose you call it a wet saviour narrative.
Sure, absolutely, yes. I like it. It's very like Last Samurai, Avatar, Fern Gully, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've never actually seen Fern Gully. I just know Avatar is based on Fern. Anyway, well, I mean that's my notes we've been through. So I am thrilled that I saw this. I'm very happy to have finally seen it.
I'm really pleased you liked it. I kind of suspected you would. I thought the whole kind of ragtag crew in peril kind of thing was going to appeal to you.
The only way that I would like those kind of films more is if they get killed off one by one, which doesn't happen in a Disney film traditionally. So I wasn't surprised when that didn't happen.
No, they prefer to kill off lots of faceless people in bulk at the beginning,
and then just the bad guys at the end.
Yeah.
You might get a heroic sacrifice along the way, but it's rare, and we didn't get one here. Did you have any other notes or anything else about Atlantis that we didn't talk about?
Very, very little. No, I can see my only other note is the one moment that worried me early on when I thought, is this as good as I remembered? Was there's a seasickness joke which is instantly followed by a poo joke, and I thought that they maybe could have broken that up a little bit. It's the bit when Milo says, he throws up over the side of the ship, and then he says, carrots, why is it always carrots? I don't even eat carrots.
Yeah.
And then you hear this announcement over the tannoy that says, whoever removed the L from the motor pool sign, we're all very amused. Yeah, so I think if you're going for that kind of scatological humour, you need a bit more than just like half a second between you got to respect the scat gap. That would be my t-shirt slogan if I'd worked on Atlantis.
respect the scat gap.
Yeah.
But I feel like at least with those there is some. It's not. It's a poop joke, but it's not watching somebody step in poo. There's there's a layer you have to go through to try and work out. Remove the L from the pool. Oh, I see. And the vomit jokes, like the scene prior to that, is Milo saying, "I'm so excited, I can't hold it down."
Yeah.
Cut to him throwing up. So there's a little bit more to it than just your traditional puking and pooing.
I suppose so. I think I was just worried it was going in a direction that I didn't want it to. But then that, like from about the mid-90s onwards, you almost had to have those jokes in animated films.
Yes, especially if you're trying to appeal to kind of the younger male audience, which this feels like it is.
Yeah,
I was trying to do. Yeah, I don't know why I was 14 when this came out, which I feel like is ripe to go and see this film. But
it's also the age when you kind of think, I'm not going to go and see the new Disney film now.
Maybe because I know I saw Dinosaur in the cinema the year before.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, despite loving dinosaurs, a very boring film.
Yeah, that was my bottom of my ranking.
I think I remember that, and I don't blame you at all. But so I think that may have been like, okay, well maybe I'm done with Disney, and that led to a 9-year gap of me watching Disney films. But I stuck with Pixar. I saw all the Pixars, so
Yeah,
I moved from one to the other.
that was what happened with most people, I think, at that point, isn't it? Pixar took over for a while.
Yeah, Disney couldn't compete for a little bit. Good. Okay, well, there's a couple of features to close out the discussion. Firstly, how is Atlantis, the Lost Empire, similar to Deep Blue Sea? So I have a list. They talk about a main character has lost their mother. Character has a pet fish. Milo has a pet fish, which they never talk about in Deep Blue Sea. Janice has pet fish in her room in Deep Blue Sea. They're just in a scene, and it's never mentioned. But I like the pet fish being underwater. Most of the action takes place underwater. There's a big exposition dump early on. The whole thing is about trying to get research funding. There's a wealthy benefactor. There's a ragtag crew that includes a cook who never cooks vegetables. There's a lady on the radio. There's a scene where rivets are pinging around. An underwater workspace is destroyed. There's a skeleton crew. After all the crew gets killed, there's a skeleton crew left. Surprisingly large explosions. A scene that has 2 people in a small air pocket. They consult an underwater map. There's an important necklace. A character prays. A lady strips to her underwear. And there's one scene where a character looks up and is surprised to see somebody above them firing a flare gun, which is very niche. But then there's also a cliffhanger, another Rennie Harlan film, another cliffhanger nod, in that there's a fight on board of an airship between a very muscular guy and a kind of more scrawny nerd, between Rourke and Milo, compared to Stallone and John Lithgow at the end of Cliffhanger. So we love Cliffhanger on this show. We have to mention it when we can. And finally, how deep and how blue is Atlantis?
Ooh, I'm interested now.
Yeah, so for listeners who don't know, when I go through this film, I go through like scene by scene, minute by minute, second by second sometimes, working out approximately how deep the action is taking place at within the film and how blue everything is on screen. And I work out the average depth and the average blueness of the film, like a normal person does. Andy, as you may or may not know, Deep Blue Sea is on average 14.5 meters or 47.5 feet deep and about 31% blue. Do you think Atlantis, the Lost Empire, is on average deeper and or bluer than Deep Blue Sea?
It's got to be. It must be deeper. And I'm gonna guess that it's bluer. I'm thinking of the very blue Rourke at the end of it, and I'm gonna guess it's deeper and bluer.
Okay, well, it is definitely deeper.
Yeah.
They frustratingly never give me an exact depth. I love when films give me an exact depth, and we don't get that. 47 meters down, the best film we've ever covered on this show, because it's right there in the title. But this one I had to kind of make an estimate. So they say it's off the coast of Iceland. So I looked at the average depth of the Icelandic Ocean, which is about just over 1,000 meters deep. And I took it as that's when they're at their deepest, or just before they go into Atlantis, that's how deep they are there. Which then there's stuff on land, there's stuff up in the air a little bit. This works out on average 746.5 meters deep, or 2,449 feet. Which makes this our 7th most deep film.
Oh, wow.
7th deepest film. It's slightly deeper than Shark Tale if you don't include the credits, or is which I don't like having Shark Tale on my ranking twice, but it feels like it should be. And it's slightly shallower than The Abyss. So pretty deep. Blueness, it's close, but it is not quite as blue. Deep Sea is 31%. This is 28.6% blue. Roughly, so it's slightly bluer than Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, not quite as blue as Sphere. Yeah, but it's close. I didn't like fine tooth comb this. A more accurate assessment might make it a little bluer, but roughly. It's roughly 40th on our list. It's
right, so quite, yeah.
I'm
glad it made the top 10 in deep anyway.
Yeah, out of 104 films, 40 is not bad. It's in the middle there. But yeah, that's Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Thank you, Andy, for coming on to talk to me about it.
Thank you ever so much for having me. I'm hoping you'll have me back. I think that one.
Oh, absolutely. Well. Yes.
So, I've got a film for your list that maybe we could discuss later down the line. Have you ever heard of The Sea Wolf?
The Sea Wolf.
Sea Wolf. Sadly, that's not a literal title. It's not a cross between Jaws and The Howling.
Oh, that's a shame.
It's an old Michael Curtiz seafaring adventure, and it does feature a shark.
Sold.
So
that's all we
I thought
need.
It might be one to add to the list. A shark which, like the Oscar voters of 1944, has an appetite for Barry Fitzgerald.
Of course. Okay. Well, I'm adding it to the list as we speak.
Excellent.
I'm putting your name right next to it.
And if you have me back, I'll watch Deep Blue Sea 2.
Fantastic.
And keep
Excellent.
Deep Blue Sea back in my back pocket for my third appearance, obviously.
Of course, yes. Great. Well, do you have anything that you want to plug?
Not really. Just that you can read my reviews on the Blueprint Review. I write for there regularly, and I'm usually working on a feature like my Disney one. At the minute, I'm working on watching and ranking as many films by Michael Curtiz as I possibly can, which is where I saw The Sea Wolf. And Michael Curtiz is one of the most prolific directors in Hollywood history, so it's a bit of a crazy task, but it will eventually be up there on Blueprint Review for you to read.
Excellent. Any hints at what your future rankings might be?
Oh, I've got so many I want to do. I want to do Pixar. I want to do, obviously a big animation fan, so I want to do Pixar. I want to do Ghibli. I'm often interested in watching things that I haven't seen before. So maybe I'll dig into some directors that I'm not as familiar with and finally go through their list.
Well, can I recommend Rennie Harlin?
Yeah, I'll get him. That would be interesting, actually.
It is. It's quite an eclectic bunch.
Yeah.
He has his Asian period. He just went off to China and made a bunch of films in China that no one's seen. We've seen 2 of them. Well, the third one's still to go. He's an interesting guy. We're almost done. And like this year, you have to add 3 of the Strangers films to it because he has 5 films coming out in 2024.
Oh,
he's a madman. Great. Excellent. So yeah, you can also occasionally see my writing over at Blueprint Review as well, but far less frequently than Andy's. But I will have a review for a shark film called The Last Breath coming up soon. I haven't watched it yet. I only got the screen link today, but that'll be coming up soon, and we'll be talking about it on this show at some point after then as well.
Oh, I did just also on the day I watched Deep Blue Sea as well, which is another weird coincidence. I also watched the recent Chinese animation, which is called Deep Sea, and that's one of my most recent posts on Blueprint Review. So if you head over there now, you should be able to find that quite easily.
I had to decline. David came. Do you want to watch this? It sounds good for your podcast. Well, I'd love to, but I don't have time. So Andy, you're welcome. I kind of asked David to give me first refusal on any kind of Deep Blue Sea adjacent stuff. That's why I get all the shark films. Good. Not that anybody else wants to review them anyway. There we are. So yeah, Blueprint Review is where you can read lots of Andy's stuff, occasionally some of my stuff. And you can follow this podcast all over social media at Deep Blue Sea Pod. And everything Mark does over at moviesfilmsandflicks.com. Next week, we'll be back in the shark territory with the Raquin, the Raquin. We've recorded the episode. I still don't know how to say it. It's French for shark. I thought I could speak an okay amount of French. Turns out that when you have a guest from who is French Canadian on the show, that I can't speak French at all, and I get corrected a lot. We had a very fun time with Kate McNabb talking about the Raquin. I can't honestly. It's listen next week and we'll talk about it more. But that's next week's show. But as for Atlantis: The Last Empire, thank you once again to my guest Andy Goulding.
Thank you very much.
I have been Jake Lure, and I'll Deep Blue see you next week.